Hello, world. This is John with WoW Support. Welcome to our second try of doing podcasts. You might notice the first one did not get saved to our archives, but that's fine. Best things happen in the second try. So here we are. This time we have Artie joining us as our flight engineer, and we've got Jackson joining us. Uh, he is
I
he's
am
my
me.
co-pilot, I guess.
My name's Jackson. I've been with WoW support since about has it been November last year, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's been a ride.
It has.
So yeah, I founded the company about 3.5 years ago. Wanted to make sure that we brought technology to the masses, give a whole bunch of people as much education and tech support as possible, um, and definitely help educate, support, and enrich people's lives. Primary goal is to help people as much or as little as they want with their tech questions or problems. So, but I wanted to kind of start this one out since it's really our first broadcast that's going to get archived. Um, Want to give Jackson a chance to interview me for a little bit before we dive into some of our agenda. But we're gonna do a quick interview. We're gonna do a little bit of talk about the current trends or problems in technology, and I think that'll be what we do on this one.
Yeah, the idea here is to dig up all of your deepest, darkest secrets, John, for the world to see. So let's get into it.
Hey, look at
No,
the
but
time. Where did the time go?
no, but I've always been really curious because this is going to be fun for me too because I haven't really talked to John a ton about the start of WoW support, but I want to know if even you'd tell us a little bit about before WoW support. Where was John? What was John doing?
Well, I was working with a company that did education solutions for schools. We put tech labs in that taught kids how to learn instead of just memorize and regurgitate. Um, so you give them project-based learning. Um, if you think of like the Mark Rober's Crunch Labs and the little kits that he's putting together,
Yeah,
stuff like that. But we would have an entire classroom filled with computers, various kits and apparatus, and then we'd also bring the furniture. So schools would give us an empty room, and we would bring in a full program. It was quite cool. I started with them a long time ago. I don't want to put years to it, but yeah, that was some time. Um, I was the seventh on staff, and slowly worked my way up to VP of operations. Um, at the peak, I did a head count one time. I had 98 employees and contractors working under my branch of the company. So that was
that's a
super
lot.
cool.
That's a lot. So now, when you were, what was most fun for you? Like when you said you were setting up all these labs, like for me, that seems like that would be so much fun. Would you say was that really fun for you when you were doing like the grunt work, or was it more fun for you when you kind of became VP and you were more managing that whole situation?
Well, I didn't become VP real quick. It slowly grew. So it went from me being kind of the guy doing the work in the field. So they'd fly me from school to school. I did that for the better part of a decade. Kind of one man band. Every once in a while, bringing a contractor to help me. But yeah, I would go from school to home to another school to another home to school, back and forth throughout the summer because everybody wanted labs in the summertime. But as things got busier and busier, I had to start managing more installs, and it just made natural sense to, if I'm managing four concurrent installs, to not be on one of those. Um, so then I stepped into that lead role, managing everybody from afar instead of in the field. It worked, but uh, built a scalable system. So our bandwidth when I joined was one lab every week. We might be able to do one and a half in a week. Um,
That's
so
ground zero, building it up. It's up and running.
yep, Yeah. So we would walk into an empty room. We would unpack all the parts, um, put the computers together, put the tables together, put the shelving together, unbox all the parts and pieces. We'd fill, 2 or 3 dumpsters full of just the packing materials and all the stuff that was necessary to get the labs from A to B.
Right.
Um, so it was an adventure. More often than not, back then, schools didn't have a network infrastructure. We could get on the internet, but they didn't have servers. They didn't have that we could join. They didn't have the securities permission. So we ended up putting our own servers in that managed the entire smart lab system. So it was super cool. But as we did that, and just to put numbers to that, I would do probably 20 to 25 labs a year. And if you average it as I slowly increase the amount of work that we did, I've been in 350 schools across this country.
That's a lot.
I did
Was
I
it
did some.
mainly high school, middle school?
Mhm.
Where were you looking?
It was mostly middle and high.
That is super cool.
Yeah, we had a phenomenal sales team. It was great. They got us introduced to so many awesome areas. Went from the affluent schools all the way down to impoverished schools, trying to do some turnarounds. Magnet schools. It was great.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I started out doing the typing and pushing buttons and installing the CDs and computers, calling up and activating software with vendors, that kind of thing. Um, Built the system up so that I I would walk away, and here was my goal: is I would build the system so that I didn't have to answer the phone for support because the system could manage and heal itself. We had some restoration methods that were pretty simple to walk people through. As long as you know the password, we could get you back into working shape in better part of a day, no matter what happens.
That's good. I think
So
that's a lot of people overlook that nowadays, where they get things up and running and they don't plan for downtime.
yeah, and it's one of those things that it's not if, it's a when. So when things go south, when a computer dies or software stops working correctly, when the internet stops giving you access to those cloud resources, what do you do? Um, and so I was able to take a lot of the expertise that I derived in building systems um, into this career. Left Creative Learning Systems a while back to join, or well, I started looking around to see what I wanted to do, and decided I was going to start my own company doing tech support services. Um, I had
What
a
was it
pretty
that
good
kind of pushed
experience.
you? What was it that pushed you to do that? That made that kind of final decision that I'm gonna start my own company rather than look to join or work for another company.
I think it's that it's kind of cliche. Everybody wants to be their own boss, right? So there was a bit of that. There was also just a little bit of pride. I had helped build up that last company as part of the core management team. Um, Kind of wanted to see if I could do it myself. Could I build a company? Definitely had skills. Definitely could go work with people and solve problems. And so if I can blend the build a company with work with people and solve problems, then I could be a one man band doing this stuff. Well, and all of us know somebody that does IT work on the side, right? Somebody comes over at night, dabbles on the computer, fixes it,
Right.
gets rid of viruses, replace hard drives, or installs that new computer or whatever. Uh, I didn't want to be that. I wanted to start a company that could provide service on a larger scale, just something that could um, handle multiple clients at the same time and have a team of engaged and well educated and well interested people that could go do the same thing that I did. So to carry that passion forward of make technology not a problem. Because when it is a problem, you need some help, and we're here to help.
Very cool.
So start building a company from the ground up towards that goal. Go ahead. cut you
Yeah,
off.
no, when you started, how long did you start alone? Did you join or did you start the company with someone as a partner?
On paper, my wife is a partner in the company. Um, she is handling a lot of the office management stuff, the paperwork and bookkeeping. Um, but for the most part, for the day-to-day operations, that's me. So kind of a 1-2 punch. I wouldn't be where I'm at without her.
How long did it take um, before you grew enough to where you could start hiring on other technicians and other technology facilitators?
Yeah, so rather than having computer techs, we have technology facilitators. Because a technician has a specific role, specific job. And I don't want to be rude to any technicians out there, but the typical mindset when you hear I'm a computer tech is it has a mental picture, and I didn't want to have that for us. So we did technology facilitators because we facilitate that experience. We help solve problems. Um, we can do it for you. We can teach you. We can guide you to knowledge. Um, it's not that we want to be the solution architect. If you want to do it your way, we're here to help. So when we got to a point of growth, I wanted to get to a point of I'm working 150% of the time on technology, and then we could hire somebody. So I wanted to make sure that we had um, the proper foundation to expand to additional people before we expand. So that was the milestone that I wanted to reach. Is let's make this let's make this make sense for everybody.
So as as the company has grown and as you have your role is, I'm sure, changed quite a bit during this time. Something that I've noticed as I've been a part of the company is it's very unique to every client. There is no cookie cutter solution for everyone. And I just want to know if you could talk a little bit about that. What kind of a, if there is a motto behind that, or what has driven you to consistently give completely personalized service to everyone? Because I know it's not easy.
No, it's not, and that's probably the worst challenge we've got, especially when it comes to building a scalable organization. It really breaks the rules when it comes to cost efficiency and operational efficiencies. But that's not why I'm doing this. Uh, I'm doing this to help each customer with their world that they've created. So each one of our customers is a business owner or somebody in a business that has got a vision of their own. We're not going to push our vision on them. We're going to follow their vision and be a part of it. As a electrician buddy of mine says, it's your party. I'm just a guest. So I don't want to tell them how to run their party. I want to be the best guest possible and solve their problems. So it's approaching the customers with a sense of how can we help, not here's what you have to do.
I like that. That's I think it definitely makes a difference um, with our clientele. Now, one thing I want to ask, and I don't know if you'll have a good answer for this, but throughout this process, I know there have been, it's impossible to not have screw ups or embarrassing moments. I want to know what is one that has just haunted you that may be comical.
No embarrassing moments. It's all good.
Nothing, right? Never.
Well,
No,
there's
no.
me.
No, so I think possibly the most embarrassing piece I could think is uh, really just not knowing the town that I moved into. So we set up in Cheyenne. Um, my wife's family's from here, so it's a natural fit. But I didn't know any of the key players, so uh, getting together, people would make comments on the community background, community history, recent events. And I just didn't know about it when I first started, so I just went with the flow. And my embarrassment was just smiling and nodding, not knowing exactly what I was agreeing to. And then, just that ignorance, but all of us I think have that at some point. Um, you go to a party where you know two people and you go out and you mingle.
Right.
Um, that's what I had to do.
If you were to take all of the business owners in Cheyenne and throw them in a party, how would you describe that party?
It's a lot of fun. It really is. So the Chamber of Commerce here is pretty good about rallying together. Many of their events have 200 to 300 people showing up, and they're all business owners, they're all business participants, people that are engaged in um, growing the economy and growing relationships. So that's been a fantastic place for me to get together. But yeah, when we get together, it's a hoot. I love it.
That's great. Now, if uh, was it a culture shock for you for when you moved and when you set up in Cheyenne?
No,
Felt like home.
no. A little bit of home, but it's that I the culture shock for me was just doing a career change, right? Um, having traveled the country, I've been in 43 states. Um,
Which ones have you
it's not
not
a
been
problem.
to?
Oh, mostly the upper New England, uh, Maine, um, Massachusetts. Uh, I have not been to Vermont, so somewhere up there. Um, and then have not been to. Oh gosh, there's very few, and I can't name them off the top of my head. I can name the ones I have been to, but that's a way easier list.
We're gonna have to knock those out because I feel like once you get to 43, that's only seven more. Like
Yep,
you have to knock that
Alaska's
out.
in that list.
Yeah. Have you been to Rhode Island?
Been to Rhode Island,
Okay, all right.
and it's funny because I went to Pawtucket, which all the locals there will say that it's pronounced Pawtucket, not Pawtucket. So you can quickly identify who's local and who's not.
Oh, that's funny. Well, that was more or less what I had uh for you on questions about support. But what is there anything else you want to share about the company or what you've learned since starting it?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is slow down and take a deep breath. Right? Don't be in such a hurry that you get ahead of yourself and cause your own problems. Um, I had a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of eagerness. I still do, but I'm curbing that with a measured sense of I got to move at the speed our clients are moving, not the speed I want to move. So that's been a bit of a change for me. So
Right. I just did think of another one. You yourself, uh, you are an expert in pretty much everything, but what is one area that you think is your go-to, is your happy place?
oh gosh, my happy place. I like creating new systems, right? How do I build a new network? How do I build a new rack? How do I build a new cabinet? How do I build a new wiring solution for a thing? Um, I find lots of satisfaction in putting a system together that um, achieves a goal.
I agree with you on that. I think that's what I find most satisfying. It's actually kind of what got me into computers was the satisfaction you get from seeing something broken and fixing it, or seeing something uh, with the potential to be better or improved upon, and then you go in and you just something just works. It almost feels like a miracle every time. Like, oh my gosh, it actually works. It does what I want it to, and that's my favorite thing.
And it just watching something come to life. That's uh, nothing brings me more pleasure than to get a system up and running that does the thing and solves problems for people.
Yep, I agree with you on that. Well, that's very cool. Um, John, what's been going on lately? What do we got on our list? Current events.
Ooh. Current events. Well, the top one that hit my news feed this week was the VPN uh, tunnel attack. I forget what they're naming it. I've seen a couple names.
Tunnel vision.
Um, Tunnel vision. That's right. And it's interesting because people are calling it an attack. They're calling it a vulnerability. They're calling it a bug. But it's not. It's actually just a feature of DHCP and networks. So I mean, we
Okay.
could get in the weeds pretty deep on it, but
Well, break
um,
down for me what is a VPN? Define that in clear terms then before we jump too far into it.
there's so many different kinds of VPNs. It's that's a loaded question. But in this situation, VPN connects you to a network separate from you and secures that communication so that nobody near you can read the content. So if you and I were on this chat on an encrypted channel on a VPN, people could not eavesdrop. Um, that's important for bank transactions, for email, for whatever it is that you're surfing. So if you're at a coffee shop, you'll want to use a VPN to connect out to a cloud server somewhere so that people in that coffee shop can't snoop on what you're talking about.
Right, because that is
Um,
it's a big thing to worry about when you're out in public, out vacationing. Um, there's so many ways for people to take control of public networks and make them look real, and they can get into you. So I think that's what most people think of when they think of VPN is that the added measure of security. But I don't think a lot of people don't understand exactly how that works. So
yeah, and
yeah,
that's I think we're only at the beginning of where this and I'm going to call it a feature of DHCP is just being misused in a malicious way. It's a feature that acts like a bug. How about that? The um, I think we're just at the beginning of how this is going to get abused because I can see multiple layers of attacks wrapped together into one solid attack at like an airport or at a coffee shop or even public parks. I was at a public park one time and I saw the Wi-Fi name for a hospital nearby, the library nearby, a school nearby, and so my phone would auto connect to the hospital because I had been there, or it would connect to the library because I had been there, and it would automatically connect because the name and password's there. Well, some little scammer had set up their own pirate uh, uh, portal with those things, and the idea was all the traffic going in between was captured, and they would just read it back and look for names and passwords and that kind of thing. So I could see this DHCP attack rolled into the same kind of attack there to trick your system into um, using the wrong credentials. So we've gotten kind of off. So the VPN that we're talking about is a connection between you and a remote network. So this is either one of the big players giving you the anonymous VPNs in the world, or if you're connecting to a corporate office, this attack would be successful for either one. What it does is the DHCP sends a command to your laptop saying, here's another route for your data to flow. Um, your computer will send data to the next person in the network, usually the router or firewall, because that's what it's programmed to do. Well, this DHCP command says, okay, that's all well and good, but you can also use this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make this other track a priority, so you should send all your data through this other track, which the hacker has set up as a trap for information. And when I say trap,
gotcha.
it's a read. They're capture and store and analyze that data later for names, passwords, bank account information, that kind of thing.
So how do you detect or protect yourself from this type of an attack? What can you do?
Uh, use a non-vulnerable device to connect to the network. Um, Another one that I've seen was use a travel router. So for those of you that are kind of savvy out there, you can get little routers that you travel with. So if you're staying at a hotel, you connect it to the hotel's network, and then you connect to that travel router. You can set that up with VPN. You can set up your laptop to connect through that to then set up a laptop direct VPN. That would bypass the DHCP rules. Um, so there's a couple ways of protecting yourself, but I think this is just going to be slowly patched over time to say laptop should have a choice of which one is correct, and the user on the laptop should have veto power over what that choice is.
Right. So if you were, most people use, isn't it called dynamic DHCP? Is that right?
DHCP is dynamic.
Right. Oh,
Uh,
that's right. Of course. Which, yeah. So it's essentially you're just putting another layer between you and an unknown router.
mhm.
If you're out and about.
Yeah, so if you've got that travel router, it could get compromised by this DHCP attack. But you connecting to that router and then you on your laptop using a VPN to connect through that router to the internet would be encrypted. So your travel router, even if it is compromised, um, you're connected through a VPN tunnel through it. It can't see anything.
Gotcha.
And that's really the trick is um, the VPN encrypts and obscures the data. If you can catch that data before it's encrypted, you got a much better chance of compromising that user.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I'm afraid that we haven't seen how far this rabbit hole is going to go, but it's going to be a sophisticated attack, um, and uh, not everybody can pull this off. It's just going to be a matter of time to see how bad gets. Um, Hopefully, we get something out there. And I do know that Android decided not to adopt these rules. So if you're on a Mac, a PC, or iOS device, and Linux too, you're going to have to deal with this. But if you're on Android, you're safe.
Good to know. I am not an Android user, so that leaves me out in the open.
Well, that's the thing is, no matter what device you use, there's always going to be a thing.
Right. You're never totally locked down.
Yep.
That's interesting. How long ago did that come out?
Oh gosh, Artie, you might be able to help on that one. I think it's 3 or 4
Within the
days.
last week.
Is when
Hmm.
Well, it's
You
been
know, I
it,
reported on
always
them
it's
thought
last
about
week.
this. I've always thought about how because a lot of times when they release an update where they say, "Hey, there is this security um, vulnerability," I'm always curious to know like how many of the bad guys out there didn't know about it, but now they know about it just because they announced it, and now are going to be taking advantage of that. What do
oh,
you
it's
have to
worse
say
than
to
that.
that?
It's worse than that. Um, One of the number one things that happens on Patch Tuesday. So Microsoft and Adobe and everybody has really arranged all their updates to happen about the same time. It's the first Tuesday of the month. They call it Patch Tuesday. Um, a lot of these hackers out there will look at all the vulnerabilities, and without knowing how to do it, they'll say, a buffer overflow or stack overflow or whatever the attack is. Um, they'll read how the patch prevents that, and they'll see, oh, so that's broken. So then they pull out their magic toolbox and run 25 different attacks against that kind of thing just to see which one would work.
Right. And how often how often does everybody update their things on Patch Tuesday?
That's the
Immediately.
problem. I actually wrote an article for one of the the not Cheyenne, Cyber Wyoming. Um, there's a term that was starting to get famous, mean time between inventory. Um, that is the time from when the patch is published to the time the computers that are vulnerable are brought into the bad guys network. I wrote this about the time when Exchange got a big vulnerability. From the time the patch was published and the details were known, it was 15 minutes to get tens of thousands of servers into the hackers' hands.
That's crazy. That's crazy fast.
It was insane. So the before the patch could even be manually clicked on by the computer guys, um, your machine's probably already hacked into. And the worst part is when a bad actor or threat actor gets into your system, they'll usually patch that hole. You know, it's like if you leave your window to your house open and a thief breaks in, he's not going to leave the window open. He's going to close it behind him so nobody else can get in.
Right.
So then the thief's in your house and it's all closed up. So when you run a scan, you're patched. But the bad actor's already into your house. So what do you do?
Yeah, that's concerning. But I guess that's why we have antivirus, right?
Uh, Antivirus, Huntress is actually a pretty awesome tool for tracking persistent footholds. But there's a whole security suite out there. There's companies that are making a lot of money helping people track active threats in their networks because they're real.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty crazy to think about that because I mean, so many people are so afraid to update their machines, I think, and their devices because they have had a bad experience in the past or something with an update. Oh, I don't like the new update, and they don't do it because they're worried about features. But most of the time, right, these updates they're not features; they're security updates and they're bug fixes.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been bitten by bad Windows updates before, where you run Windows updates and then all of a sudden your computer blue screens and you can't
Oh
get
yeah,
back into the machine. It's gone, right?
yeah.
Um, you have to do some deep cleaning, fix it. It takes a couple days to get your system back where you want.
There's
Um,
actually one from Microsoft from April. The update actually disabled VPNs from functioning. And the
hmm,
advice from Microsoft is roll it back until we can figure out what went wrong.
I remember that. Yeah,
Hmm. So yeah, it's
yeah,
a
or Print Nightmare. I mean that was an interesting one.
what was that one? Print Nightmare, you said?
Yeah, the printer service on Windows servers and desktops um, runs at a system level because it has to.
Right.
And Microsoft said that it's vulnerable by design, otherwise it won't work.
Sounds like they need a
So
redesign.
yes, and it's been over a year. We're not going to see a redesign. I'm hoping, Microsoft, if you're listening, I'm hoping, but it would be good to have printers back the way they were.
Right. You know, I'll be the first to say I don't think I've ever used a printer and it's worked the way it's meant to work with with you know any machine, a Mac, Windows. I have never been able to print something first try, just have it come out and be like, "Oh, thank you." It
Oh, yeah,
always
haven't
takes
had us set it up for you.
I
We'll get you trained, Jackson. No worries.
know it. I know it. I'm sure it's user error.
And that's one of the sad realities of printers is there's so many variations on it. Um, I made the mistake a while back, probably about 5, 6 years ago. It was on a Windows 7 machine, and I clicked the update list from Windows Update of all the printers.
Yeah.
Locked up the computer for 15 minutes. And it
Oh,
just downloaded all the printer drivers from Windows updates. At least all the
oh
options
my
didn't download
goodness.
the drivers. It slow computer, slow connection, and yeah, I regretted that.
Oh
But
boy.
I had all those drivers.
That's good. I guess you can just walk around and print it anywhere then, right?
Well, that was to get the list of drivers,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and then I have to go find the right one. And the frustrating part was I had some obscure model.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the list.
Of course it wasn't.
So at the end of that, I had to go to the website and download the universal driver.
Right. So what do you have to say to someone who kind of holds that attitude towards updates? Like, oh, I don't want to update until it's been, I don't know, some arbitrary amount of time that they think is valid for an update to be considered safe.
Patch it, because whatever breaks, the manufacturer will have a fix soon. It's better to have the manufacturer break your computer than a hacker break your computer.
That's you should write that one down, plaster it somewhere.
Yeah, I can't say it emphatic enough. Run the updates as soon as you get it, whether it's the Chrome updates up in the top right that gets super annoying. It's like, oh, we've got an update for you. Or Windows update saying, hey, you need to reboot. Save your work, reboot now. Just as quick as you can, because those updates do have actual benefit to being on your system. It's a rare chance those updates break the system. When they do, Microsoft or whoever will tell you what to do to fix the problem. Because odds are it's not going to break your laptop; it's going to break you and 100,000 other laptops.
Yeah, so you won't be alone in that, which
Yep.
is somewhat comforting.
Well, and it grabs their attention, right? You know, if they break 2 laptops, Microsoft will say, "Sorry, it's just 2 of you guys.
Good
We're
luck.
not gonna spend time on it. Call us. We'll walk you through it." Um, and they will. Microsoft support is mildly decent on fixing little problems on obscure situations. Um, they've been able to walk us through situations when we've had to call on them.
It's
And
also worth it's
let me
also
take
worth
this moment to
mentioning
say, go ahead.
uh also worth mentioning to anybody listening that it doesn't matter if it's Microsoft, if it's Linux, if it's Apple, if it's Chrome, they are all constantly under attack from people that want to break into it. Bugs happen, patch them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really good point. It's not just a Microsoft thing. One of the sad rumors that became a well-known fact by everybody. It's not a fact, that Mac doesn't have viruses. Macs absolutely have viruses. They have vulnerabilities. You can hack into them, and it happens constantly. It's just they have a smaller market share, and it's those ones and twos that get hacked. It's not the 100,000 that get hacked. The issues are more infrequent, but they exist. So when an update hits, run the update. But to that point of calling Microsoft, one of the things that we're not too proud. I know when I'm in over my head, and I know who to call to get help to fix that. So I'm not against reaching out to Microsoft or Apple or even an expert that knows a Linux system or an Android phone or an iPhone. I will call whoever I need to solve the problem. Anyway, leave you with some
Plus,
dead air there, Jackson. Go for it.
no, it's just a constant thing to be aware of. But that got me thinking. I don't know if you want to go into this, but making sure you have backups and redundancy in your workspace is equally as important as your security or bugs. Um, because there is no
W-
100% protection to
w-
anything.
One of the most heartbreaking things that I have to do is tell somebody your data is gone.
It's the worst. It's not comfortable for anyone.
Yeah, there's no good answer. There's no, well, can you call somebody? Yes, I can. And when I talk to them, they agree the data's gone. And it could be a missed term paper. It could be 7 years of books on the company. If you're not running backups, you've got no chance of recovering that information when a hard drive dies or a laptop falls down the stairs or any of those things that could happen. Um,
Like the
so
electricity arcing from the power supply to the row of hard drives beneath it.
that's never happened.
What's that story, Artie?
Oh,
That's what happened to one of the first
okay, that's pain.
computers. Yeah, that was
That's
pain.
pain right there.
It was a short in the power supply that just caused it to arc down to through all. It was one of the old-fashioned mid towers, and it fried everything. The drives wouldn't even
Not
spin
right
up.
away. Not right away. It took one out, but it slowly killed the rest of them. So I built up a system that had 4 hard drives in it, right? I thought I was hot stuff. I got all the hard drives I owned into this machine. I had 700 and I think I want to say 798 gigs or something like that. Or no, it was yeah, it was gigs. It was gigs. And I get a call from Artie and he said, "Hey, I was on your computer and there were some loud sparks." I turned it off, but yeah,
Oh boy.
didn't see any smoke. Like, what do you mean smoke? What are you doing? And so I got back, and there was an arc burn mark on the top of one of the hard drives. The power supply had shorted out so bad it arced on the inside of the case.
I bet it looked pretty.
Well, and this is back in high school days, right?
Oh, really?
So I've got every hard drive in this machine that I own.
Oh, that's so sad.
I
No
literally
backups.
lost everything. Oh, yeah, no backups. So that was a sad day, and that's a day that I learned don't keep data in one place. And I think everybody has to go through one of those moments to learn the importance of backups and the importance of data can't live in one place. Now, Google and Microsoft and all these cloud providers, they also learned that lesson too, so they back up their data. But the having it in the cloud is not a backup. There was a website dedicated to sharing pictures for a while called Flickr. Um, a lot of photographers kept all their pictures up there, and it was a great gallery. You could display them for the world to see, to talk, to evaluate, whatever. You could even charge money for prints. I don't know if that was a function of the website or if that was just advertising to get to the print side of things. But one day Flickr changed the rules and deleted all the photos. And everybody's freaking out. It's like, this is the only place I kept the photos because your site is awesome. And Flickr said, gosh, if you don't have it somewhere else, it's gone.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, no, there was threats of class action lawsuits on that one. But cloud-based services will change the term of service in a heartbeat. And if you don't have physical care of those files, if it's only in the cloud service, that's it's a risk.
That's for sure. And I know, just remembering of other data loss stories, sad stories. I know we had a client, without naming any names, they had lightning strike, and it took out, how many machines did it take out?
Um, that was it blew up one, and I mean blew up, but the others were touched.
Right. They were they were they were kissed by by several thousand amps.
1.21 gigawatts.
Right.
Zeus said no.
So yeah, it's funny. You never think that that would be like, like, who is thinking, oh, lightning might strike my house one day. I should probably back up my data, but it's real, and it's
Well, and that goes to the 3-2-1 backups that we always tell people to go with. It's and there's different ways of saying it. It's 3 copies of your data on 2 different kinds of media or systems, but 1 copy is completely offline and offsite. So in the case of Lightning, if a backup lived offline in somebody's, like a storage locker or a safety deposit box or something, that's extreme, but then when lightning hits the house or the office, that data is gone, but you've got a backup off-site and it's ready to go. The only thing you have to recover at that point is a week or 2 from the time that you walk that backup over to that physical location.
right.
There's ways of automating it, but I'll say it this way: if you've got a connection, a connector, a connection to that remote location that's on, in my mind, it doesn't count as an offsite backup. It is offsite, but the number one thing that ransomware teams will do is access your backups and delete them, because that's how you avoid paying the ransom. Is I've got my data over here in an archive. I'm just going to restore and get rid of your ransomware. But if they delete the backups, you don't have that option.
So how do you actually then perform a backup to that system on a regular basis without it being connected to your network?
So that's one where we sit down with our clients, and each situation is different. The needs and resources vary across from a one-man band all the way to a 50-person company. So um, there's no one solution for everybody, because it could be I need to save a 4 gigabyte backup of my QuickBooks, or it could be that I've got to back up 82 terabytes from my server and all my hosted services. I got to back that up somewhere on a reliable and consistent basis. So, and unfortunately, it's one of those. If you've got a specific case, I'm happy to talk through, but each one is different. So to go back to your earlier point, how do we manage our customers, and how do we manage the relationship with our customers? It's getting to know their business, it's getting to know their needs, and getting to know how to help them best.
That's a lot. That's a lot to think about. Too much for me. I'm glad. I'm glad you're doing it.
Well, you're helping, so
Hopefully.
well, you're asking some good questions. Keep going.
Oh, I have so many things to ask.
Unless Artie's got something. Our flight engineer might have a question or two.
Nope, just listening to the trucks drive by with the souped up engines.
Because that's way more entertaining than what we're doing.
Well, it's more that I can't help listen to it, and it drowns out what you guys are saying half the time.
An involuntary enjoyment of very loud engines.
It's like complaining about living right next to some F1 track, which may get annoying at some point, but
There was a speedway in the town I grew up in. It was 4 miles outside of town. Thing was awesome. Every Saturday night they were just racing and racing and racing till like
oh,
1 or
that's
2 in the morning.
awesome.
I'd have my window open and I could hear it from my bed 4 miles away.
I
Super
believe
cool.
it.
Well, society grew, sprawl came in, houses moved in, That speedway was there for decades before the houses, but the houses
Right.
made the speedway go away.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh, I was mad. It's like this is the terms and conditions of where you're moving to. I get it, but don't don't move next to a speedway and then complain that you're next to a speedway.
It's like the people that move next to an airport and then I didn't realize it was going to be loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was going back to the backups. I actually was looking up a couple of statistics, and I'm curious if you had to guess the um percentage of cause of system failure, let's say, or cause of data loss between hardware or system failure versus human error versus um, viruses, malware, ransomware. What do you think the ratio is?
Oh, human error, far and away. I mean, it's going to be like probably 10 to 1 or 20 to 1 versus the others. I mean, everybody has accidentally deleted a file or overwritten something or thrown away a thumb drive by accident, or worse yet, tap your pockets. Where'd that thumb drive go? You know, it's just one of those. Humans are the weakest link in any cybersecurity solution.
Hey, John, I'm going to put some faith back into humanity for you. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
According to Cloudian, um, the percentages are equal, almost equal. Now, I will say human error is 31%, while viruses and ransomware are both 29. And I don't know where the rest of those lost few percentage points are, but it's about equal across those three.
Interesting. I am actually a little reinvigorated. That means hardware's dying faster than I thought. So
Now,
I would guess
what
that acts of God, like the lightning strike, would account for some of the in the missing section.
you're probably right about that. Now, another thought about that, I wonder if they take into consideration, because I do agree with John. I feel like human error should take up a bit of a larger percentage of that, especially when you look into phishing attacks. Um,
mhm.
I wonder if they're counting that as a virus rather than human error when the source is human error. As I clicked on an email I shouldn't have, but
Yeah, because ransomware doesn't just happen.
right,
Ransomware is human error. Now that really comes back to where is the human error? Um, it's not necessarily the human in front of the computer that caused the ransomware. It could be, um, and here's a case that I saw from one of my followed YouTubers. Um, an accounting firm was hacked because the IT provider used a default password on the firewall. So hackers got in, they ravaged the network, they copied all the data, and they extorted him for money. And it was sad, but through no fault of his own, through no inaction of his own, he thought he was doing the right thing. Somebody in the supply chain goofed up and exposed him to this nightmare. So, I mean, does that count as human error, or does that count as ransomware as a data loss? I say it's human error.
yeah. So
So I
according to
contend human human error causes more data loss than anything else.
I think you're right. According to John's definition, which is probably a bit more correct. Um,
Maybe
human error
we'll
is
let the viewers of this decide if that's more correct or
they can all have a war in the comments about it.
yeah.
But another interesting statistic that they gave is a lot of times we think about um, data loss is huge, but then let's say you have your backups ready. Okay, I didn't really lose that much data, but the amount of time it takes for you to get back online, depending on what kind of a service you provide or what kind of a business you're in, that can be expensive.
Mhm.
Um, what Claudian said was that um, the average cost of downtime to a business is $5,600 a minute.
Yeah.
And if you don't have redundancy set up, if you're not ready for data loss, to reduce your downtime as low as you that can be. I mean, restoring from backups depending on data size, that's going to take a long time.
Well, and that's just an unfair number because 5,600 a minute. If you got a company that makes $100,000 a year or $150,000 a year, if you're a sole proprietor, that per minute cost is less. Whereas if you're a company that's 250 or like a bank or a hospital or something, that cost per minute goes way, way higher. So, but it's a nice average because it's definitely a large number per minute. Because you got to think everybody that's working the problem isn't doing their job. You know, if let's take a 10-person accounting firm. If they get hacked, you've got 10 people that aren't doing their job now, which means the owner is paying the wages for people to stare at a computer that doesn't do anything for them or make phone calls. They can make phone calls all day, but um, they're unproductive. And more likely, if they're going back and recovering stuff, you're now spending money on them duplicating the work that they've already done. So that doesn't feel good. Um, it's a hard place to um, it's a hard place to be if you don't have good backups. It is one of those things it's like insurance. I heard somebody talk about life insurance in a pretty morbid kind of way. It's you taking a bet with a company that you're going to die today or tomorrow. I'm going to pay you a monthly bill. I'm going to bet that I'm going to die this month. I'm going to bet you $200 that I'm going to die this month. And that's not far off. I mean, it's like I say, it's bad. But with computer data, that's actually a safe bet, right? It's not if, it's when.
Oh, absolutely. And when you add on, I've got one more statistic for you. This one comes from Gartner. They say that only 6% of companies affected by a data loss disaster that didn't have a recovery, so they have no backups, no redundancy, that is lost. Only 6% of those companies continue to operate for more than 2 years after that disaster. So
Yeah,
it is a
no,
safe bet.
a data loss event is a business ending event. A ransomware event is a business ending event. Um, it's one of those unfortunate realities. There's days I question, what am I doing? Why am I doing this cybersecurity stuff? Do I really want to get into this? Um, it's I wouldn't feel good going to bed at night if I wasn't pushing a better security posture, a better way of computing. You know, I don't want to get all after school special on this, but if I can save those companies from going under and keep those employees working day in and day out on the daily grind, I'm going to do that. It just makes the world a better place to have people productive instead of caught by accident, or worse yet, caught by a threat actor. So that's kind of my mission is make the world a better place.
I like that. That's a worthy mission.
And I'm having fun with this tech stuff anyways. So
Well, I'll say when you were talking about uh, cybersecurity, it's not my strong point. I don't know as much as I will eventually, I should say. Um, but I hate it. I
So,
it's such a drag for me. But I don't know about
cutting
you.
in, we've got a question from somebody in the audience. What is your backup media recommendation for tier 1 systems?
ooh, tier one. Hmm. Let me ask the viewer, what's the budget? And so I'm just gonna throw out a budget of $5,000 for backups, not knowing the data size. Um, I would get a NAS on the corporate network that would copy the data to it, and then I would copy the data from that to drives that you would take off site every week or every 2 weeks. Um, but it's putting it on flash storage or magnetic media is a good idea. It also depends on how far you're going to travel with it, what kind of environments you're going to keep the backups in. Some backups are too big; you got to put them on tape, and tape is actually still a thing these days. But I see a lot of success in our users in taking a high speed flash drive, not a USB thumb drive. USB thumb drives are not backup media. I can't express that enough. Um, but taking an external hard drive, not to give any brand allegiance, but like Kingston or um, Samsung have some fantastic external solid state drives. Those are pretty good. Um, but you definitely need two backup locations for your data.
Now, I'm actually going to ask you a question about a NAS. What kind of a NAS would you look at when you're thinking? Well, let's say both. I'm at home. I'm just like a little hobbyist, and I want to start a NAS. Do you recommend um, doing something like through Linux? Say I have enough experience where I could do it. Would you do Linux, or would you buy, say, something like I know WD makes NAS. Pretty much everyone does. What do you think are takeaways from either of those solutions for both personal use and, say, a business?
So my entry level is a network based system that has multiple drives in it, something that has redundancy. So like a RAID 5 or RAID 6, uh, some way that a drive inside that NAS can die and it still keeps going. Um, so I would recommend if you're feeling savvy enough with Linux, great. But I like appliances. So again, I don't want to kick out brands because this is not sponsored. I'm not endorsing the products at all, but like a Synology or a Promise Tech has a couple ideas on NASs. Something that you plug into the network and not just a USB port on a computer. Um, that's really my entry level criteria for a NAS. If you did a Linux system, that's great. You're recycling hardware. I am all for that. I hate e-waste. Whatever we throw in the landfill or recycle, it just causes a burden. If we can reuse it ourselves, great.
Good to know. That's a good answer. Do you change your answer for business versus personal?
Yes, but not much. NAS is the first start for business. It could be the last stop for personal because taking your data offsite, that's cumbersome. It's like you're already home. Where do you go with that backup?
Right.
You know, take it to the bank in a security deposit box. That's inconvenient to say the least.
Buried in a
But
box in my backyard.
yep,
That's where I keep my money.
you don't keep your
Responsible
money in a big
choice.
mattress.
No, got rid of the mattress.
No, good questions though.
Well, we are at time if you guys want to continue talking. Um, but keep to the schedule or
No, I think let's unless there's a reason, I think we could probably wrap this up now.
okay.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate all you viewers for checking this out. Welcome to our first try at getting a podcast published to the world. If you're watching this later on, fantastic. Keep tuned to all of our social media. Follow us Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. Artie, what are places we're going?
Um, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch,
Facebook,
Facebook,
YouTube.
YouTube.
We're on
Yeah,
everything.
Yep.
I'm still building the Twitch site, so I'm going to be adding that information underneath. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like and follow us if you like any of the stuff that you've seen. Add some comments. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.